One more powder now, one more powder tonight.
Hello everybody, and welcome to the start of our second series of YouTube tutorials aimed at the very beginner, the absolute beginner. They're still suitable for those of you that have more experience, but really I want this to be all of these series, the beginner series, to be aimed at people who have never even picked a paintbrush up before, don't know anything at all about paint, different kinds of paint or whatever. And so that for those of you that have followed the first series, for example, there may well be a bit of repetition. But it's not a bad thing to watch stroke by stroke how a painting evolves. And you can learn that and use it then in your own work. I think this one, it's 16 by 16. The one we did last was 16 by 20, so it's a little bit smaller. But I still think it'll take us quite a few videos to get through to completion. I'm not sure how many, but on this occasion we're going to be putting the videos out hour-long videos twice weekly. So you'll actually get to the end, or you have the potential to get to the end more quickly than we did with the Tuscan house, which seemed like I was building it brick by brick, quite frankly, at times. But I hope that the new one will be exciting for us and will grip us right from the start. It's certainly a very nice photograph. So let's get cracking. Well, this one that you're seeing here is the first one that we did in the series, the Tuscan house. It's actually a misnomer. It's a Spanish house, but I didn't know that, and I called it a Tuscan house. So that is how we know it on YouTube in our group. I think it took us 9 or 9.5 hours to complete, but isn't it great? And the people who have followed along and shared their pictures with me, I'm just so delighted. I'm so delighted that you had a go. And the end results are fantastic. So let's just hope that we can do justice to the second one that we're about to start. I'm going to call this one the Old Barn for obvious reasons. And we're looking out through another old barn or a shed, through the doorway to this lovely view here. And it's this sort of old rusty barn that looks a bit worse for wear. We can see the sky coming down to some mountains here, and then there's some trees, a little bit of greenery, and a pond, a reservoir, something here, and then all this grass. Now we'll see how brave we're feeling when we come to this stage, or maybe even the end, and we might put something like a little dog on there, perhaps. Just let's get too clever at this stage. When we come to painting the frame, this old shed here, in order to give us a fighting chance of painting it accurately, because it's all very dark, I'm going to put it into Photoshop and brighten it up considerably, brighten the whole image up, which we'll have painted this by then, so that won't affect us. But it'll show us where the timbers go, and it'll just make it a slightly brighter frame for our picture and something that we can get details on. But I'll show you that step by step. I'll do a video about it so you can do it at home. And for those of you that don't have Photoshop, I'll put a new reference picture on so you've got something to refer to. Okay, right then. Well, it's time to get started. So the first thing that I want to do is to the edge of this doorway, so it just gives us this area that we're going to do first. We're going to do, as we always do, work from back to front. So in the very front we've got the grass, then we've got the barn, then this middle ground here and a tree, and and then behind that these hills, mountains, and then behind all of that we've got the sky. And so the sky is our first place to start. I should say at this stage that I'm going to alter the sky slightly. sometimes you get a fantastic photograph and it just doesn't work completely as a painting. And this, I mean, it's beautiful. There's a credit to the guy who took it underneath. I think he's got some sort of weird name like Flash Harry or something, but it's underneath the video in the credits. It's lovely. His was another sort of 4 inches along here, so you could see much more of the shed, and it was that was nice. But I felt I wanted to make a sort of equal frame for ours, so I cropped it in. I've forgotten what I was saying now. Well, altering the sky. Altering the sky. Thanks, Mr. Handyman. So you see this line of clouds here, which comes too near to the apex of this roof for my liking. It looks like it's just one solid line right across there. So I'm going to alter that. I'm going to alter it quite dramatically, actually. I'm going to paint a nice bright blue sky and just put a few clouds in it. So it's not going to have this very cloudy bit up here and then this clear bit back there. It's going to be all clear with just a few little clouds in it. So that'll be a new experience for some of us, putting clouds in. It's a handy technique to have, and then you can use it on landscapes or seascapes or whatever. From then on, you'll have the knowledge to do it. Right, first thing I need to do is unwrap my canvas. It is a 16 by 16 Jackson's premium cotton canvas board, 4 mils. They also do a cotton canvas board that's 3 mils, and I haven't seen that much difference between the two of them really. Let's see if I can get into this. There we go. So it's up to you what sort of sport you want. You can use MDF, you can use gallery wrap canvas, anything, whatever you've got to hand, whatever you like to paint on, really. Thank you. So, for those of you that know me, you'll know what's coming next. But for those of you new to the Miss Paintalot way of doing things, we attach this down one side, it doesn't matter, either side will do, with masking tape. I'll show you why in a moment. So put that down the side of your picture without stretching it or buckling your picture. Right, that's that. So then carefully place it so it's absolutely on the edge of the life. No, just on the edge of the picture. That's that, and then just press it down so as we lift it up it'll be okay. Okay, so the purpose of doing that, the express purpose of doing that, is that at the moment we're going to draw around the frame so as we can make this inner part. But we're going to do the sky, which is going to come a bit over this old barn and the hills and whatever. So when we need to check that we're actually okay or reinstate some of the lines that we need to see, you'll have this at the back of your work. When you want to see something or transfer something else, you bring it forward and it's always going to be exactly in the same place. So it makes life just that little bit easier. And it's a nice tip to have. And what we're going to do is transfer the image of our photograph onto our canvas. So for this purpose, I'm going to use some paper called Trace Down. It's been on the go for ever and a day, and it comes in a graphite sort of colour, like a pencil sort of colour, but it can be easily removed. So the reason I'm using this, and the reason I'm hesitating here is because people prior to this will have seen me use this Saral transfer paper, and it comes in sheets of, I think they're A4, are they? A4 sheets?
I think 12 by 8 or something.
Alright, okay. Well, they're that size twice anyway, which is great for most jobs that you're doing, because you just be transferring something small. But this is quite a large thing that I want to transfer, so I'm going to use this trace down because it comes in A3 sheets. And my apologies if you're watching this in America, because I know that you don't have A3 and A4. You have letter and different ways of describing your paper sizes. But this is the size of one sheet here. So I'm just going to tuck that right up to where that's coming over there. And I'm just going to pop that there. You can overlap them, it doesn't matter, you'll only get one line. I've used this a lot, as you can see, there's a lot of markings on it, but it just goes on. All that transfer paper stuff, it just kind of keeps on giving. So because we've got a lot of straight lines on this, I mean, they're not exactly straight, but for our purposes today, just trying to work out where the central image goes, I'm going to suggest that you use a ruler. It'll go in much more quickly, and we can always deal with any erosion of the timbers later on. So it'll just give us a bit of a head start, really, a bit of a heads up where we need to be painting. So it's just around the outside. I have invested in a clear ruler, which does make life much easier than it used to be when I had a metal ruler and I couldn't actually see. So I hope you're as excited as I am to start this next one. I felt towards the end of the Tuscan house, it was getting a little bit tiresome. I couldn't get my bougainvillea to look the way I wanted them to look for ages, and I got a bit cheesed off with them in the end. Talk about talking to your plants. I was talking to them all right, but I don't think it was doing them any good. Anyway, I got there in the end. I was quite happy with the end result. And, you know, like I say, those of you who've posted them on this acrylic Paintalots group, it's just staggering. For beginners, you know, honestly, well, for anybody, but, you know, considering that you are beginners, it's amazing how clever you all are. And it's practice. It's all about practice. You can watch as many YouTube videos as you like, but until you pick up that paintbrush, get the feel of it, get the feel of the paint, you won't begin to improve, I'm afraid. You'll have all the knowledge, all the tips and tricks in your head, but you really do need to get practicing. It's the only way forward. Even if you sort of decide to do, you know, a little painting, just a very, you know, 6x6 or something every single day, by the end of, you know, if you did it for a month, by the end of that month, you would really be seeing a difference in your painting styles and your abilities and what you've picked up. So I'm not really putting the detail in of the old barn. I'm just putting things in that I think we might get to today, or certainly the next video, that will help us. So I'm just going to put in this line of hills in the background. And there's a couple of trees here that break up that line of hills. Look, there's three. This one's a little one here. Trunk. And finish the line of hills. Okay, so I'm also just going to put in where these darker areas of grass are, just in case we get round to that sometime relatively soon. So these are sort of areas of grass that are more just ground, earth than grass. Just give us a bit of an idea. Okay, let's see what that looks like then. Okay, so there we are. That's perfect, isn't it? It gives us a good place to start, I would say. So I need a reference photograph now to work from, because my original one at the correct size is now under the canvas. So what I recommend that you do is print out your reference photograph that you're going to actually be painting from on a good quality photo paper, so you really get a very good crisp image, and that gives you a good clue as to what we're going to, you know, colours. And I mean the colour difference, I don't know if the camera will pick this up, but the colour difference here between the sky, between this colour here, it's really brought them to life being printed on photo paper, and therefore hopefully it'll give us a more vibrant painting if we follow the colours quite faithfully. Right, so what I propose to do, what I said to you that I would do, is to start with the sky, which starts here and ends at the mountains. I'm not going to do it like this. I explained to you why. I don't like the clouds, don't like the heaviness actually of the clouds, and I don't like them coming down to almost form a straight line here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to blend the sky from a darker colour to a lighter colour by adding white as I go down, and then we'll have a look and see if we want to put some clouds in. Bear in mind, this is a tutorial for absolute beginners. So if I decide, I don't know if I will or not, but if I decide to put clouds in and you feel that you can't manage them, leave them out. Just leave them out. The sky will look fine anyway. If I paint the sky plain and you're a more experienced painter and you think you want to put the clouds in, that's fine. It's your painting. I'm just giving you some tools to help you achieve a finished painting, but it's yours. So do with it what you will. So I'm going to use a big brush. This is the biggest brush I actually have, and it's a Daler-Rowney number 10. Now numbers on brushes are a bit ridiculous, really. If you only ever buy Daler-Rowney System 3, this number 10 will mean something to you. If you, for example, want to do Jackson's own brand or, you know, anything else, that number 10 means nothing. So it's not a set size. It's not like an inch is an inch is an inch. A number 10 can be anything. But in this particular instance, it's a number 10 Daler-Rowney System 3. And what I'm going to do with it is dip it in the water and a couple of times, just so it gets some water in through it, in through the bristles. And I'm proposing to use, throughout this, I'm going to be using golden opens. I need them in here because if I'm painting in the evening and videoing it, I need a light, I need all the lights on, and it gets very hot. So I need something to slow down that drying, otherwise I'm really struggling with it. So the golden open, they stay open, slow drying acrylics, it says. They stay open much longer, workable. Read for open as workable, for much longer. And so it helps me. You may also find it helps you actually, but I'm not saying go on out and buy a whole set of golden opens. You know, they're expensive. So put out a bit of the, this is phthalo blue that I've opted to do the sky in because it gives a lovely bright blue when you mix it with titanium white. So at the top, well, we'll just dampen this down a little bit first. Don't saturate it, just quick spritz. Makes the paint go on more smoothly. Don't put too much on because then you run the risk of a thing called underbinding, which is when the paint becomes so dilute the polymers in the acrylic can't stick to your surface. So beware of pitfalls like that. Take a little bit of the blue, a little bit of the white. That's a very dark blue, so I'll add just a little bit more white into that. That is beautiful. That's absolutely azure. It's gorgeous. And then start to put your sky in. Now, it doesn't matter if we go over the lines of where we were. You probably get a better finish if you do go over those lines. We can always reinstate them at a later date. So we're going from side to side, brushing it on smoothly. So we get a nice finish. And a little bit more white into that mix. And come down, half overlapping the last line that you did. And keep brushing so it's going nice and smooth and blend it up into that darker colour there. There we are. Now, at this stage, take the paint off your brush because I've just been up into that darker area. And if I now come down here, I'm carrying that dark paint down into here, so I won't get a good blend. So it's imperative that you clean your brush of paint at that stage. Then add a little bit more white into our mix. So with the open paints, if you use water with them, you kind of defeat the object of the exercise, because what happens is the drying time then goes down to the drying time of water, which is the ordinary drying time of acrylics. So in order to not stop that openness and keep it workable, you need to use, instead of water, you need to use a thing called fluid retarder. It's the Winsor Newton Galleria one. It's the one I always use. It's liquid, it looks like water, and you do get through quite a bit of it, whereas water's free. So, that's another expense that you have to think about. So I'm just putting a little bit into a bottle top thing here, and I shall use that instead of the water, which will keep my paint open for longer. So getting down into some nice light blues now. See, with that fluid retarder, it just goes on so much more easily. It just flows. I'm going all the way up, and then when I get to the top, I'm going to stop and clean my brush off, then go back into a slightly lighter mix of our colours, blue and white, and come down to here. So this is the sort of last bit of sky. Take it up again, just blending. We're blending as we go. Tiny bit more blue retarder, a tiny bit more white. We'll get nice and light as we come down to the horizon. And I would quite like to leave those so I can see the marks of where the trees and the mountains are if I can. So there you go, you see that you've got this much lighter, and make it a touch lighter still actually as we come right close to those mountains. There we are. I'll just blend this up. It's on the brush, just blend it up. And every time you do that, you get a better blend. So there we are. A little bit there, I think I missed actually. There we are. So that's a very pretty sky, I think. It's really sort of dark at the top, but still a lovely, absolutely beautiful, bright summer's day sky. And it's coming down, gets lighter and lighter. And actually, if you go outside and you look at any sky, you will, most skies, there's always exceptions to the rule, you'll see that the darkest blue is at the top above you, and then as you come down closer to the horizon, it begins to get deflected by particles, and so it loses its strength of colour, and that's what we want to achieve here. That is what we have achieved. Hooray! So next decision is, do we want to put clouds in it? Well, I think they'd look quite nice. I think couple of little light clouds scutting about would be quite nice. Now, for this, I'm going to use a brush that you all know I absolutely adore. It's called Deerfoot Stippler. I use it for loads of things. I will be using it for the grasses in this picture. Who knows what else I will find to use it for. It's a really handy little brush. If you haven't got one, but you've got a really old paintbrush that's raggy, like this one, I mean, that's never going to paint a straight line again in its life. Sorry, shut your ears. It's just a bit jigged. So ruffle it up even more. Just be cruel to it, and you'll get something that's not too dissimilar to this. So it might save you a few bob. If you have got a few bob to spend, though, I recommend that you buy a Deerfoot stippler. I use mine a lot. Okay, so let's charge up. Oh no, we're using golden opens. Don't charge it in water. We'll charge it up with the fluid retarder. Get that going through the bristles, so it's going to be ready to accept some paint. So we'll take some of this white away from this blue, bring it over here, charge our brush up. We want paint on it, but we don't want masses of paint on it. So let's put a little cloud up here. Pull the bottom out. Go back in on the top with white. My background isn't dry, so it's picking up blue. Of course, it's golden open, so it doesn't dry really quickly. You want the very tops of them to be the lightest white. I think I'll leave that for a minute because I'm actually pulling too much blue through. I'll state another one, and then they can be tacking up a little bit. I'll just bring the sort of liney one in here. Once you start painting clouds, you look at the sky all the time. And as we're driving along, I will be, and Mr. Handyman does it too. Look at that sky, we'll say to each other. If you painted that, people would say that was made up. Because you do get some really strange looking skies. So just drag the bottom down a little bit so you take the light out of it. There, it just sort of disappears. Same with this one. Drag it out a little bit. And see if that's tacked up at all. And I'm going to have to rinse my brush. It's got blue on it. And clean it off on a rag. I prefer to use a rag than kitchen towel. Kitchen towel, I find it's so thin. If you've got quite a bit of paint on, you're doing that, you end up and your hands are dirty as well. So a rag works really well. They go in the washing machine. They don't come out clean, but they come out soft, soft enough to use again. So just nick an old t-shirt off your chap, cut it up, and you'll have a whole new happy life. I think we're still not at the stage where I can go in there with the white really. But we've placed them, we'll get there. So we're going to have 2 clouds in our sky, and I think that's probably sufficient. So this brings us down now to the mountain. Let's take that off now. Deerfoot stippler. Although the golden opens are open for a long time, I still wouldn't recommend leaving your brush full of paint. That's never a good idea. So these mountains in the background, when we look at them, they're blue. Well, yes, mountains when they're far away, they can look blue, but they also sometimes have a purpley cast to them. And I'm suggesting, because our sky is so bright, I don't really want to make the mountains this bright. I want them to be purpley and way off in the distance. So let's see if we can mix a purple, a lightish purple. So this is ultramarine violet. I've never used it before. I really haven't got much of a clue what colour it actually is. Ooh, it's gorgeous. That's lovely. It's going to be a bit dark for our purposes. Let's just find a nice brush. I use this 1/4 inch angle shader. Again, it's a De La Roni System 3. They've seen fit to mark it as 1/4 inch, not any of the silly numbers. This brush, this 1/4 inch angle shader, is a must, I think. I really think you'd struggle without it. I don't know how long ago they invented them, and I don't know what people did before they invented them. I rather suspect they chopped the brushes off. But if you can possibly afford just one brush, then the 1/4 inch angle shader's got to be it for me. It really has. So let's have a look at adding some white into that ultramarine violet, see what sort of colour we get, what colours we can achieve. That's a nice colour for a faraway mountain, I would say. Just add a little bit more purple. I think we need just a little bit of a dark colour. I'm going to use, this is by the by, this is because it happens to be sitting out here. It's a golden fluid acrylic called Bone Black. And I just want to grey this purple up a little bit, so I'm just going to put a little dot. This isn't open paint, so by using it, I'm going to be spoiling all my open properties. But I haven't got one in open. Now that is a perfect hill colour, I would say. It's greyed down. Yeah, I'm happy with that, and I think you will be too when you see it where it's going. So it goes down here and it stops. There's sort of some buildings which I'm pretty much going to ignore, to be honest. They're nothing to do with our building. It looks a bit like it might be a factory or something like that. So make sure you get an interesting sort of top edge to these. This is our mountains, and we want them to look like the mountains. There's a tree comes in here, and then they sort of start again here. We'll put them in behind the tree. As I say, it doesn't matter if you go over into what will be your frame. That's fine, because we'll be painting out quite a dark brown anyway. So we'll just imagine where our mountains might go. So they'll go somewhere like that. The tree takes up all of the foreground, so we don't need to worry too much about that. I like that colour for faraway mountains. It's really nice. So it's just this sort of purpley colour, white, and a teeny tiny little bit of what they call bone black. It's dark grey. You could also get this colour, by the way, by mixing together purple and yellow, which are complements of each other and will always give a grey. And by mixing more purple into less yellow, you'll also get a sort of grey purpley colour, which would also do the trick. Okay, so there's our mountains then. They look quite nice against the sky. So next thing to do, I would say, is to put this green line of embankment, I think it probably is, under the trees, and we'll go back and look at the trees after we've put that in. So for that we need a green. and I've pulled out 3 greens today. I've pulled out chromium, which is very, very opaque, sap, very transparent, and Jenkins green somewhere in between. They're kind of much of a muchness, and looking at this tree on our reference picture and the grass, it looks like it's autumn time to me. It looks like there's a bit of rusty coloured foliage on these trees. So we basically want to put a base layer in first of all, and then come back and put some autumny colours in. So I'll take some of the sap green, not so much. Managed to get that over myself again, of course. Now for this, I'm going to use a little filbert brush. If I had a smaller filbert brush, I would use a smaller filbert brush, but I haven't got one. So I'm using this one. I'll just dip it into my fluid retarder. Pick up a little bit of that on the end. And let's just start putting this tree in. See the filbert, you can use it straight, angled, whatever, and you get a very, very nice sort of tree. It does nice trees. So there's one that sort of goes down here. Mr. Handyman's just handed me a little filbert that I did not know I had. De La Roni filbert. Oh, I'll give that a try in a minute. Obviously been out by the sink. I just haven't noticed it. So as I said, this sap green is very, very transparent, so you might find yourself going back over it a few times to get the finish that you want. So that's that, and it comes right down to the bottom onto this green strip of land that we've got. Now here we've got 2 little trees and they've got stalks. Stalks. Yes, it's a tree stalk. Oh, it's a stem, for heaven's sake. For that I'm going to use, once again, it's sitting out here in front of me, so it's a fluid acrylic and it's raw umber. The thing about golden is, if you use raw umber in the high flow, the fluid, the heavy bodied, or the open, and it says raw umber, it will be the same shade throughout all of those paints. So you can mix and match. You know, if you've got bits of one thing left and you want to use it up, that's fine. This is raw umber, which I think might be just a little bit on the dark side for our stalks, for our tree stalks. So I'm just going to take a little bit of white, mix that through there. We do want it brown, you know, tree, what we call them now, trunks, not tree stems at all. They are brown. So let's just pop them in. There's one right on the edge here. Comes down to there. And then there's a little one down in here. So let's then put in. I'm just going to put green on first. It's hard to really determine. Just rinse that brush off in some fluid retardant. Don't want it to dry up. So I'm going to try this nice little brush that Mr. Handyman's just found me. Feels like it's never been used in its life. Very exciting, new brush. So this one sort of comes around. Actually, I might use a different green so we can see what's occurring here. Just a teensy bit. And this is Jenkins green. I don't know who he was, but I'm guessing he must have been a colourist of some sort. So this tree comes in front of this one, and you can see his stem, trunk. If you use your filbert, that edgeways on, you get more texture. If you just use it flat, but just literally tickle the page, you'll get this nice markings. For those of you who did the Tuscan house, this is the way that we did the green plant and the purple plant. So that's that. For the other one, I'm just going to mix a bit of sap with a bit of Jenkins, just give us a slightly different colour again. I mean, we're talking nothing here. We're talking shades of nothing. And if you leave little gaps, it's great. You can see the mountains behind, which is what would happen with trees. You know, they're not solid. So there we are, and there's this other one here. That's still quite damp, that mountain, which I'll do in Jenkins. So just use your edge to get an interesting edge, and then you can use it flat, putting on that sort of mark every time. Can you see that? It's semicircular sort of mark. Can you zoom in?
If I can move it that way.
Okay. That's as good as we're going to get.
Unless you go more to the right.
I'll go more to the right. Right, so you can see that now. You can see the little mark that we're making. And we just keep making that mark over and over again. And it gives a really sort of nice sort of little look of leafage on your trees, let's say. And you'll see it more when I come back with an orange or whatever colour I come back with. So there we are, we've got this tree in the front, got this larger tree that stops in the middle of nowhere for no good reason, and these two on their things, stems. So I'm just going to go back to the larger tree because for some reason it's just stopped in midair. So it's the same thing, it's this little semicircular motion. Leave gaps so you can see the mountains behind. Make sure it's not too even, trees just aren't even. And we'll bring this one right down to the thing that's at the edge of the water. There you go, you've got bits sticking out like that. Right, okay, that's quite nice, I quite like that. So behind these two tree trunks, it looks like buildings, but I don't really want to get involved with putting buildings in that are of no consequence to us. It doesn't matter to us what on earth they are. Looks like it might be some sort of factory or something, I'm unsure. So I'm just going to get my mountain colour and just paint in behind there. That's very nice, that brush, Mr. H. Thanks for finding it.
You're most welcome.
I didn't know I had it. It would have made my life so much easier on many occasions. But you know, that's just life. So I'm going to go in with my 1/4 inch angle shade, and I'm going to go back to this, which is actually quite dry. I'll add some fluid retarder to it, see if I can cheer it up a bit. There we go. Happy as a sand boy. We'll just come in here and put our purple in. Doesn't need much, of course, but you know, it'll be all the better for having some in. It'll look finished. So for those of you that haven't followed me before, you can see where our time goes, because absolutely each and every brush mark that I make, you will be there suffering along with me. No, enjoying it with me, that's what I meant to say. So the next thing that I want to do is to put some colour onto these trees, because as I say, they look very autumnal to me. You know, there's a lot of orange. And another thing that I would say is crucial, it's crucial to any painting, is knowing where your light source is coming from. Two things, perspective and light source. Perspective we don't have to worry about on this one because someone's already taken the photograph, we're not drawing it out. So that's not a worry, we just copy the perspective that he's got. But the other thing is light, that's right, where your light's coming from. So in all things, you'll have a light side and a dark side depending on where the artificial light, where the sun, whatever it is landing on it. And on this painting, you can clearly see that the light is coming from here. This is where it's coming from. This side is light, this side is dark. And on this tree, this side is light, this side is dark. And even when you look here, you can see this is the brighter side of our old barn. So we need to get some suitable colour out, but we need more highlights on the left side of it, which is where the light is hitting it. So I need to get, maybe this yellow ochre will be just the job. I'm going to, I think, have the same problem with this as I had with the putting clouds in. The open, of course, is still open. So the little brush picks it up. So I'm going in with this little teeny weeny little filbert brush here, which is just great. Picks them up. And we'll just put, suggestions down the left hand side that it's autumn time and that its leaves are turning. I'm out of our where our frame is here at the moment, but that doesn't matter. One thing we don't want, I think I might get on better actually with a round brush. Even as small as that is, these trees are teeny weeny. So I'm going to use a round brush. The only one I can see off the top of my head is this rather chunky fella, but it doesn't matter, they all make points. So I'll put them in the fluid retarder, and then what you do is you roll your brush in your paint. This is a good technique to get the hang of, because otherwise, if all you're doing is dipping the tip of your brush in paint and coming over, as soon as you've made 2 or 3 marks, you're out of paint. So you'll spend your entire life doing this, and it'll drive you dotty. It'll drive you dotty. This is the way to charge your brush. Make sure your brush is damp. Roll it in the paint so it's got good coverage, and then start lifting it up while still twisting until you're off the page and you've got a really nice point on the end. So however big this brush is, we should still get nice little points, and we are. So we'll just bring that. I mean, we don't want to make it like a circus sort of colour. We want to make it believable. I'm just going to introduce some fluid retarder into that paint because it's very, very thick. And it loads better onto a round brush if it's just a bit thinner, and if it's a very fine round brush, you really need to water it down quite a lot. So here we've got some on the top where the light's hitting it. It's coming down around here. And there's just little bits where it's just catching a bit of light. And then we've got this teeny little one that we did here, which actually has quite a lot of this autumny colour on. I might just add another colour to that just to make it slightly different to the oranges. I'm just going to add the smallest amount, and that is the smallest I can get out of cad yellow primrose it's called actually. So just a little bit of fluid retarder on the brush, pick up that yellow and mix it into there, so we'll get just a bit of a brighter colour for that one particular tree, because sometimes trees, when they change colour in the autumn, you find that some go red, some go yellow, some just go brown and drop off, boring ones. So there we are. I think we can probably see that there's a tree, there's a tree, there's a tree, and there's a tree. I'm hoping that's showing up. It's really teeny tiny, isn't it? But you can...
Well, we zoomed in, but as soon as we zoomed in, you moved the entire canvas to the left again, so we
sorry.
had to zoom out again.
Well, that's kind of where I'm painting, that's the problem.
I know.
It's where it's comfortable for me.
I know.
Where's my tiny little brush?
I can only zoom in and out. I can't move the camera.
Yeah. I've just got a little line of where you're seeing through to the mountain, and it's annoying me because it looks a bit too regular. So if you do go mad and put far too much autumn colour on your tree, just go back in with your green and drop some more green into it. These ones I think are fine, I quite like those actually. Okay, do you want to zoom in on those please? I'll move it, don't shout.
More?
As much as you can get.
If you go to the left, right more. That's perfect.
Okay, so I hope you can see that now we've got two sides to these trees. It actually looks clear in real life, but they've got some light on them. Actually, I might give them just a little bit more light, seeing as you're there to...
See a thundercloud coming over here because it's going very dark.
It's going really dark, yeah, it is.
Which isn't helping.
So I'll just show you. You just dot it in on really on just the one side. Don't go bananas. You want it to look fairly sort of natural. Right, okay, so that's those trees. They're in the background. We may revisit them if they look a bit lost, but for the moment I'm happy with those. They're basically in. What I'm not altogether happy with is this behind here. It still looks not mountainy enough, and looking at it, that looks like a pile of purple. Doesn't really look like mountains. So I think we're going to have to put some shadows and bits in them. But first of all, let's just get some of the original purple colour that's pretty much used up now, to be honest, and see if we can get that looking tidier. There's a limit which you can get out of these little pools of paint. It's just a little bit down there. Okay, so that's tidier now. I'm quite happy with that. What I want to do, I'm going to have to mix up a teeny tiny... I keep moving it. There's the handyman's going, oh my goodness. I'm going to have to mix up just a... Oh, I've still got some of this out. Already. That's good. Just a little bit more of that. I'll choose a new spot to mix it in. I can't actually see very much of that light on. Yeah. A little bit more white in there. So we've got that sort of similar mountain colour that we had. And remember the bone black that we took and added initially? I'm just going to take a little bit more this time and make it more of a greyed down lilac-y colour. And we'll see if we can't put some bit of detail into these mountains. So here's a peak, obviously. So I think it would have a trough coming down. Is that showing up? No.
Not dark enough anywhere near dark enough.
Okay, I'll make it darker. I'll add some more purple to that because I've lost my purple along the way. Okay, I don't think we're far off at that. I quite like that, that's fine. So as I say, we've got a peak here, so let's assume that we've got... You can't see that either, can you?
Can a bit, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I think you get the gist. I don't really want to go any darker or it's going to start looking a bit unrealistic. So you just want some sort of crags coming down here, just so it looks like it's mountains, even although they're a long way away. you still get the overall. So you see the idea there. We've just broken them up so they look like mountains. Pull that to the side a little bit. So we've got a top of one here. Bring it down the other way and it'll look more like a ridge on the mountain, hopefully. Yeah, that's probably all that's needed really. That says to me now they are mountains, it's not just a pretty purple. Okay, while we're still here, how far across can I get there? Let's have a look again at this, the edge of the pond, I would say it is. And when you look, yes, you first look and you think it's green. This is a perfect example of when you really need to look, not just give it a look, you really need to look, because this end here is quite greeny brown. And then here, where the light that we talked about is hitting it, it's quite a lemon yellow with a bit of orange in. So let's try and be as faithful as we can to that, which will then lend some semblance onto of what's there onto the trees as well. So I'm just checking that I've got this right. That's that green bit. This must be the water, and then we come into the grassy area. Yeah, fine, okay. Sometimes you can get a bit lost in a painting, and it's a good idea to just stand back a minute, have a look, and make sure that you're in the right place, because it is quite easy to paint away and then think, oh blimey, that's not right. That happens to me, but maybe it doesn't happen to you. So I'm just going to rinse that small brush off. I don't want it sitting with acrylic on it. And I'm going to use that teeny little filbert, because it's just so cute. And I'm going to start here with the sap green, which is it's a lovely green actually. And I'm going to take a little bit of that burnt raw umber that we had. I forget what we used that in now. What do we use the raw umber in? Oh, making the stems for the trees.
Still called trunks.
Making the trunks for the trees, of course. So this along here is greeny browny colour. You don't really want it to be extremely straight if you can avoid it. We of course have knocked out all that factory or whatever it was that was there. So we can go up as far as we want really here. Did I really put raw umber into that? It doesn't look like it's changed it very dramatically. I thought that's a little bit darker in there. And then as we move across, we move more into the golden colours. So same colours, sap green, but this time with a little bit of yellow ochre in it, which will give that nice brighter colour as we'll come across. Just blend it into the browny green that you've got. And I guess this is probably where the leaves from the trees are falling. And I'm going to put quite a bright bit of yellow ochre in this part here, just to catch the eye. And as I say, it's probably where the leaves are falling off the trees. And that carries on, but not quite so very green. So I'll just add a little bit of green through that yellow ochre and bring it off to the edge. Blend it as you go. There we are. So yeah, I think that looks good. You can see that, can't you, I think, on the screen? Right, so now it's time to put the pond, river, piece of water in there. Now, the thing about the water is,
today, I think. And the
I'll do the water.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
I'll
saying
do the water.
water's in, yeah.
The thing about the water is that it's water, you know, when you get it out the tap, it's clear, isn't it? It doesn't have a colour. You don't get out the tap and it's blue or green or whatever, unless you've got some dodgy water going on there. So what happens is it reflects what's shining on it. And what would be shining on this water is our beautiful blue sky. So that gives us the clue of what colour we need to make our stretch of water. Sometimes that doesn't happen. You know, you can look at rivers and they look really muddy. I mean, the Mississippi, for example, doesn't really reflect blue sky. It's just mud. Things happen, but in our painting, in our lovely little place where this painting is, it's reflecting the sky. So we need a similar sort of colour. Not the darkest, not the blue that's up here, but not the lightest either. So we need a sort of mid colour blue. And for future reference, any of you, we'll do water perhaps in the next one, because that's quite interesting. But for future reference, if you are painting a river or a pond or lake or anything, it always goes horizontal. Make sure that all your lines go horizontal, because once you start like that, water's going uphill, and that doesn't happen. It really, well, it does if you've got a torrential flood or something. I mean, there's always exceptions. But generally, water runs like that. Another tip. So let's take some Paintalot blue, which is actually a very, very, very powerful blue. You only need a little bit of it. And actually we've only got a little bit of water, so we don't need masses. So I think that's quite a nice colour there. It's darker, I think, than that. Just nibble into that blue and get a little bit. I think that's... Oh, I'm going to nibble again. There we are. So put the water in. Now along the edge, there's just a little bit of shore, and the shore is a line of dark brown. You can't see the shore from this side, because I guess you're looking down on it, but you can just see the vaguest of brown lines on the other side, which is the shore, which kind of makes it look like water rather than just a nice blue stripe in your painting. I hope you've learnt something today, and I hope you've enjoyed what we've done. I think we've made a pretty good start here, really, to be honest. Don't you, Mr. H?
I think we're doing very well.
I mean, we've had some off-camera moments.
When you bear in mind that particular area you're working at is actually in reality only about 1 inch tall,
yeah,
3 inches wide.
Yeah.
So,
this area here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've put. Are you saying we've put too much detail in it?
No. I'm saying we are really zoomed in.
Yeah.
And of course,
I mean, the other thing I would say to you is that, oh, it is raining like the very devil, is that generally the further back in a painting, the less detail you can see. So we haven't put all the leaves on the trees. We haven't put rocks on these hillsides. We've given the impression that that's what's there because it's way back. We can't see it. It doesn't matter unless you get binoculars, and even then you're not going to see it. You just need to give the impression. But even that, putting the impression down, takes some time to do. And I think it's coming along nicely. I really do. So we need a very thin brush, a little. Is that a spot brush? Yeah, that's no good. I'll use this one. It's just slightly thinner than this Arteza one. I mean, thinner by a hair probably. It's just that I use them both quite a lot. I'm going to have to put out another little drop of my raw umber because my original one, it's not an open one and it's dried up. It's not open, so I can use water to wet my brush. Just make that quite inky with some water. And I've got a lot of water on the brush, so I'm just going to dry that off. And then load it like I showed you before. You become very proficient at this way of loading, and it's a good skill to have. So what we need to do, looking at this, is we just need to make a little bit of a shoreline where it's coming down into the water. And in reality, this is probably, quite deep. It probably drops off into the water quite deep, but for us it's a teeny tiny little line. But if I didn't think it would make a difference, I wouldn't put it in. I think it makes a difference. So we've got it in. I'm just going to thicken that bit up there, so it looks like it drops off a bit more. But all of this, there we are. Where are we? There. All of this, working like this, it's really good for you. It's good brush handling skills, wouldn't you say?
I would.
And they are skills that once you've learnt them, they will stay with you through life, and you'll be all the better for it. You really will. So there we go. That's.
We must put a bit more white into the clouds.
Yeah, the clouds need some more white, but I won't do that without you, because it's a bit of a skill doing clouds, and it's a skill I'd like you to have. So I don't want to do them without you. We'll do them as the first thing when we come back. Okay, I think that's enough for just now, and I think it's a really promising start. I hope you agree. If you want to post your work as you go along as work in progress, that would be fantastic. I'd love to see that. Or if you have any questions, queries, anything you're unsure of, anything you think I can help you with. I'm not very good at marriage guidance, but most things, if it's to do with art, I can give you a good start. So, thank you very much for watching. Hope I'll see you next time when we carry on with our old barn. Thank you.
Me and the boys were sitting around drinking, we was talking about things that we was thinking, when all of a sudden, what comes out of Bill's mouth? Said I'm getting old and fat and slow, and I don't recover like I did before from nights of rabble, rousing and too much fun. Well, I looked around and we all agreed, and I had a drink and I ordered 3, and I staggered back to do it all again. And we made an oath on a rum and coke with the best intention, I'm sure you know, that we would stop this living in excess. We're gonna have one more party, one more special occasion. Do it Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, holidays and weekends. We can have one more party. There's more hell we should be raising. One more party now, one more party tonight.